Hello there everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make these daisy macrame earrings, and this is what mine looks like here. So you get this really nice effect of that daisy in the middle, you could say, with the super duos, and then we finish off the earrings nicely coming down to this kind of shape. And these earrings are made to match a previous bracelet that I made. So I made this a while back and I really wanted to make some earrings that would match but still would be slightly different. So this is what I've ended up with. I'm going to put a link in the description box below to the bracelet here, so if you want to make a set and wear it as a set, you can obviously do that, so they go nicely together. But if you want to learn how to make the earrings, then keep watching. So these are the materials that we're going to need. First of all, here I have my cord. So this is a 0.4 mil s-lon. I'm using this kind of teal green looking colour. You can also use whatever you want to, and also I think that goes nicely with all the beads that I'm using. And then as for all the beads, these are all going to help create the pattern that we want on the earrings. So first of all, here we have the super duos. They're going to be kind of the main part of it. So these specific ones are pastel light cream colour. And then we have 3 different sizes of regular rounds here. And I'm just using copper spacer beads, so metal beads. First of all, I have some 2mm ones. And then I have the next size up here. These are 3mm ones. And the final ones here, the biggest ones out of them, and these are 4mm. And then finally here at the end I have some seed beads, and these specific ones are 11 Miyuki seed beads, just in opaque black, because again I thought they would go nicely neutral with the rest of them as well and help frame in the outer edge. And then we'll just need some jump rings here as well. Now I have 2 different sizes. The larger ones here are 8mm ones in diameter, and these are the ones I'm going to use kind of as a starting point. So I'm going to take my cord and attach to the jump rings, they're the large ones, and that's how we're going to start out. And then also we're going to need some smaller ones to attach to whatever earring findings you want to use as well. So that's what I have here. So let's get it all together and let's get started. And what we then need to do is take our cord and then cut off some links so we can start working with them. What I have is 5 links of about 60 centimeters each. Now it's a bit more than we're going to need for the piece itself, but we also need long enough lengths to work with. And then what we need to do is attach our lengths of cord onto our jump ring here to begin with. So I'm going to take 1 length of cord at a time. And then also take my large jump ring there, make sure it's closed so the cord can't slip through. Then what I'm going to do is fold over my cord, the length that I'm starting out with here, in half, put the ends together, and then up here where I have my finger, a little loop, that's going to be about the midpoint. Then grab hold of that, and then we need to attach the cord with a lark's head knot. So I'm going to put the loop through the jump ring. So like this, pull it through, and then put your fingers through and pull the tails of the cord through the loop, and then tighten it. And then there you have your first cord attached. And then what we want to do, it's the same thing with the rest of them, but just make sure that you go through the jump ring in the same direction so your knots look the same. So attach all the cords like this. So once I've then attached all my cords onto my jump ring there, it looks like this, and then you can see that each one cord has turned into 2 working lengths. So this is now all the cords that we have to work with to make the rest of the piece. And then what I've also done is I've attached my jump ring onto my Project Macrame board here using some T-pins just to make it much easier to work with, so it's not going to be moving around that much. And then what I want to do first of all here is make some rows of knots to kind of get the process started before we get into adding the beads as well. And then what we need to do first of all is kind of separate all our cords into 2 groups. So just half in each, so that means 5 towards one side and 5 towards the other side, so just straight down the middle. And we're going to start on one side and then go to the other side as we're making these next rows of knots that we're going to be doing. So we're just going to start on one side. I'm going to start on my left side with the furthest left cord. So if you can see from your knots as well, the lark's head knots that we attach the cords with, your cords are kind of naturally coming out to each their own side, so just stick with them that way. So I'm going to take the one that's furthest to the left, bring that in over the others, in towards the middle basically. And then all the others coming out below that cord now. And we're going to use one at a time as a working cord. So grab the very next one. That's then the cord from the same knot originally. And then it's coming underneath. We need to make a double half hitch. So I take that around my finger and around the cord there and through the loop underneath. So we get something that looks like that. A 6 you could say, looping around the holding cord. Tighten that all the way up. And as I'm tightening my knot, we want to hold the holding cord kind of at a downward angle in towards the middle there. Because what we're going to do is the same thing on the other side, and the 2 sides of the rows there are going to basically meet in the middle. I'm going to do it again, around my finger and through the loop to make it a double half hitch. That's that cord done. Then move on to the next working card. Once more, make a double half hitch, tighten that, and that's going to tighten right after the previous knot. And this is then how we're building our row. Move on to the next one. We're coming kind of downwards here a little bit. Moving our way in towards the middle. And the last one on this side, make a double half hitch. And then we have our first row there with a holding card in the middle. So now I'm going to put these out to the side again, the side that they're coming from. We're going to move over to the other side with these cards here and do the exact same thing, but just mirrored. So that means on this side I'm going to start with the card furthest towards the right. So just pick that one out, figure out which one that is. And I think it's that one there. Then bring that over the others again in towards the middle of all of it, and then grab the very next card that's coming underneath, make a double half hitch, so around your finger, around the holding card there, and back through the loop. Tighten this as you're holding the holding card in towards the middle, and basically aim this holding card towards the end of the row on the other side, because like I said, we need them to meet up once we've done them both. And whatever direction you're holding your holding card is where your row of knots is going to go basically. And grab the very next one, make your double half hitch, tighten it after the previous one. And again, we're just building our row by making knot after knot, working our way in towards the middle. So what you then want to do when we have these two cards in the middle, the two holding cards, they're coming in towards each other and naturally kind of want to move over, cross over each other. So that's actually what we want to do, because we want to attach the two rows of knots together instead of them being separate. So I'm going to take my right card over the left one. That's just how I like to do it. It doesn't really matter as long as you stay consistent. So that means the one that's above is the holding card, and the one that's below, which in my case is the left one, is the working card. And all you're going to do is another double half hitch and tighten that after the previous knot. So basically tighten as far as it'll go up. And that finishes off the rows, but then also attaches them together. So just like that. So we basically have a little V there in the middle, you could say, and all your cards are coming out from that. So now that we have those two rows in place, so the first one's on each side there, then we need to make some more rows just to add a bit more spacing as well. So I'm going to go back to my left side and take the very furthest card to the left, so the outer card again, bring that over the others. Again, I'm just working with one side at a time. And then the others coming underneath here are all the working cards. And just grab the first one that you run into, comes underneath, and make a double half hitch to start your next row. Just like that. And grab the next one. And again here we're then building up our next row underneath the previous one, working our way in towards the middle. And then we have the card coming from the other side, that's the middle one on this side. Do your double half hitch. And then that's that row. And then we move to the other side again. Grab the very outer one, bring that over all the others in towards the middle. And then take one card at a time. The very next one you run into, make sure you always grab the very next one. And make one double half hitch at a time here, building up this row as well. And you can see that row forms underneath the previous one on this side. Again, working our way in towards the middle, where just like before, we're going to then also attach the two rows together in the middle to continue to make it one piece instead of two separate sides, you could say. Like that. And then we reach the middle, where again we have the two middle cards there that were the holding cards from each side. Cross one over the other, the same one that you did before, and then make your last double half hitch to connect these two rows. And there we go. Now I just want to do this one more time. I'm going to do a third row here on each side, so just repeat this step again, and then once we've done that, we're ready for the next step. So now that I have all three rows here on each side, then we reach the point where it's really the main part we're going to be adding in most of the beads. So what I'm going to start with is the middle one. So that means I'm going to take one card from each side, the very two middle ones there, you can see right there. So the very two last cards that I actually made a knot with. And what I want to do is take my 4mm round, so this one here, and I want to put both of my cards through this in the same direction. So get it all the way through, and take the other one as well, because we want this to be the very middle bead. And then push it all the way up to sit right there at the tip. And that's the very first bead. Now I want to move on to the next ones here. So again, we're going to be doing the same thing on both sides. So I'm just going to add my beads to one side here. And what we want to use now is also our super duos. So I then take my super duos here. We're going to need 3 super duos on each side, and then 2 of our 2mm rounds, so the really small ones there. And then we need to add them in a certain pattern here. So you want to just look at your cards. You're going to have one that's further towards the middle and one further towards the outside, so kind of a right and a left one. The inner one I'm going to put through one hole in a super duo first of all, and then the outer one is going to go through the other hole in the same super duo. So we're just going to start adding a super duo here, one card going through each hole, like that, and push it upwards. And then we need to add one of our small beads on the outer one. So that's this one out here, my left card. And we need to put just one bead of the small ones here onto that. So just that single one. And push that all the way down on the outer one, because that's going to add a bit of space in between the outer holes in the super duos, because they're kind of going to be sitting in a fan shape around that middle bead. And then we need to take another super duo, and again just one card through each hole. So the inner one through one and the outer one through the other one, just like that. So that's the second one. And then we need to take our next small one and again put that on the outer card. So the same one as we put it on before, so the other one there. So we have both of the small ones on now on this side, and then the very final super duo. Again, just one card through each of the holes in the super duo. So we are using all the holes in the beads here, all the way through. Push that up, and then that's the beads on this side with this super duo section, you could say. So there we go, going to be sitting nicely, because then when you push them together, you can see, because we added the small round ones on the outside, and you push the inside ones close, it's going to form that nice kind of fan shape around that middle bead. So obviously you want to do the same on the other side as well, but then we're just going to move to the outside here and show you that one as well. So what we then need to do on the outside cards here on this side that we haven't used yet, the very outer ones, again that's 2 we have left. This is where I then want to add my last size of the rounds. So these are the 3mm ones, and then also this is where we want to use the seed beads. So I'm going to get my cards ready here. First of all, I want to make a knot. So what I'm going to do is we have an outer one, the very outerest one, and then one that's further towards the middle. One further towards the middle is going to just be the holding card here. I'm going to take the outer one over that, back underneath, and up through the loop here. So it looks like that. Let's get that one out of the way. So it kind of, the working card, the outside one, loops around the other one, the holding card, in a 6 again, you could say. So that, we just went over. Now we need to come underneath with the working card, back over the top and through the loop. And it loops around. Again, looks like a 6, but it just loops around in the opposite direction. And tighten that all the way up. So that's the very first knot here. So now to add in the first beads, what I want to do is to the holding card, so the inner one, I want to add my round, so the 3mm one, just the one bead here. And then to the outer one, I want to add my seed beads, and I'm going to be using 4 of them. So just put all 4 onto this outer cord here, the one that we made the knot with, because we're going to then make another knot caging in that 3mm round, but then using these seed beads kind of adds a bit extra embellishment rather than say just the cord. Just like that. Push them all the way down. You can see they're sitting on the outside of that bead there. And then I'm going to grab my cord again, the inner one that's the holding cord with the larger bead on. Then I'm going to take the outer cord with the small seed beads on and make the same knot that I did to begin with. So go over, back underneath and through the loop. Make sure to pull it through there. And then tighten that up, making sure the seed beads stay in place there. They don't get caught on the other side of the knot or anything. And then go under with the next one. And that's basically a vertical lark's head knot we've just done as well. And there we go. And that's basically how I'm going to do the outside. So I'm going to be adding my beads like this. Now again, a 3mm round on the holding cord and the seed beads on the outer cord. And I'm going to do that 4 times because then that's the right spacing to reach down to the next level. So that's what it then looks like when I've done all 4 little beaded sections there with the knots as well. And I finished off with a knot. So these are all the beads on this side ready. Of course, then what we need to do is the exact same thing on the other side. So just add the beads in the exact same way, the super doers and the outer edge, and then we'll be ready for the next step. So now I have all my beads in place here on both sides, and then we can do the next step like I said, and also just helps keeping your cords a little bit separated into the kind of pairs that you're working with them in. So what I'm going to do from now is we need to obviously fasten all this in place because all the sections where the beads are all loose next to each other. So I'm going to go back to the middle. So that's the 2 cords with that 4mm round in the very middle. I'm going to take my right one over my left one, just like I was doing up here with the rows to connect them. And then I'm going to do a double half hitch. So around the cord and through the loop, and then tighten that all the way up. And once more to make it a double. And that then also cages that middle bead in place. You just bring some of them out of the way here. Going to work on one side at a time again. And then we have these 2 cords in the middle, and you can see they're kind of naturally going out to each their own side from that midpoint at a bit almost like a 90-degree angle. So the one coming out towards the right, I'm going to also put towards the right because we're going to use that to connect all the other rows here. I'm just going to work on my left side first. So I'm then going to take my next cords, are the ones with the super duos on. So just get the other ones a bit out of the way, and then just make sure you kind of push them up and then grab the very first one of the 2 cords. So that means the side of the super duos without the little round beads in between them, and that needs to go underneath the one coming from the middle because that's then our next working cord. We then need to make a double half hitch around that and tighten that all the way up, and that's going to then also pull the beads in nice and tight together, make them sit just how we want them to. Once more to make it a double half hitch and tighten that all the way up. And what we're going to be doing now is working outwards here, coming down a bit of an angle, and it's going to fit nicer with how the beads are sitting, so the spacing is going to work out nicely. So basically just going right underneath where the spacing for the beads are. Grab the very next cord, again this is the next one coming out of the super duos. Make sure to just pull it tight so there's no loose cord or anything showing anywhere. And then make a double half hitch with that. And then we've fully caged in the super duo section there once we've done that one. And you can see they fit just nicely around that middle bead. So there we go. Then we have the final section, this is the outer one here. Grab the first one that you run into, it's naturally wanting to come in towards it, and then make a double half hitch with that. Tighten that, always make your knot right after the previous one. Once more to make it a double, and I'm just going to pull the first half of it down first, keep hold of that, and then tighten the second half, just to make sure it stays where I want it to sit. And the very final cord, the outer one, also make your double half hitch with that one. And then we have all the rows kind of tightened together and also working more as one piece. And this is what it looks like, that's the one side. Now you basically want to do the exact same thing on the other side. That's where you go back to the middle and take the cord from that midpoint, the 2 cords you had in the middle coming out from the round bead, the one that was now going towards the right side, that's the one we want to use. And we want to start with the cords coming out through the super duos. So do the exact same thing, grab the very first one and make your row of knots underneath, caging these ones in. So now we're at this point here, we have both sides in place and our rows, they're below the beads. Then we need to make that little section in the middle here, almost like a little square or a diamond, but made up from rows of knots then. So what we need to do is start creating those from the midpoint again, working one side at a time. So what I'm going to do is just separate my cords a little bit. Make sure you have all your cords from one side and all your cords from the other side. So basically split right down the middle, just like that. And what we need to find are the middle cords again. I'm always going to go back to the middle and start from. So pretty much one on each side of that corner right in the middle there. And then I'm going to take those, and starting from the midpoint, I'm going to cross my right one over my left one, like that. And we're going to make our first double half hitch to start the next rows. Tighten that all the way up into that little corner there, and then that cord goes out towards the right side. Then we're going to grab the very next cord on the left here, because that's the side that I'm building the row on first, and then make a double half hitch with that, just like that. And then the very next one. So you can see we're just building a row here, and this is going to then be a row underneath the previous one, the one that we basically created when we caged all the beads in place and brought those sections of beads together. And there we go. So that's the row on the one side here. Now all the cords that I just used I'm going to put towards the side that they belong to, so I can start making my row on the other side, except the very one at the top, so the one we used in the middle, because that's the one that's coming out towards the right, and it's going to be the holding cord on this row. So I'm going to grab the very next cord comes under that, that's the first working cord, to make my next row. So just make a double half hitch here, tighten it all the way up into that corner, and build your next row here. Grabbing the very next cord, always grab the very next one you run into. And then this row is being built underneath the previous one on this side. All the way out till you have no more working cords left. And I'm not including the ones that are furthest out that I've just kind of put out of the way, because they're the holding cords in the previous row. So once we've done this, you're going to go back into the middle. Again, separate your cords out. The ones you've used, so once you've made a row, the holding cords from that row, just put them out of the way for now. We can separate them out a little bit. Go back to the midpoint, choose the two middle cords, one from each side right on that corner, and then make your next rows. So that means I'm going to cross my right one over my left one, and then basically do the same thing again. The only difference is now we have one less cord to work with on each side because we just took one out. But you just want to keep doing this, making your rows underneath each other from the middle, going from one side to the next then, until you've basically got a full square or diamond and you reach the corner right down on the bottom here. So now I've reached that corner down here, made all my rows, and then we have all our cords coming out to each their own side again, in these kind of groups you could say. And then I want to kind of cage this little diamond or square in. So I want to make another row of knots around the edge of this, but in the opposite direction on each side. So I'm just going to start on my left one. So I'm going to take the very outer one over all the others in towards the middle, then grab the very next ones coming underneath, that's my first working cord, and then just make some double half hitches here. You can see this row is then going in the same direction as the ones on the opposite side. Grab the very next cord and continue this all the way in, and you can see this kind of cages in the ends of all the rows here. Use all the way into the corner. So you used up all the cords on this side, just like that, and then move over to the other side and do the same thing. So take the very outer one over all the others in towards the middle, and then build your row by grabbing the very next cord here and building your double half hitches. And once I then have my rows on both sides here, we have the two holding cords, one from each side in the middle, in that little corner now, wanting to kind of naturally cross over each other. So I'm going to let the right one cross over the left one, same as all the other times, and just finish this off, connecting the two rows together with another double half hitch. Just to also finish off this little diamond or square, just like that. And then we have the main part with all the beads done, and we're also ready to now start finishing it off and start getting rid of some cords as well, and add in the final little beads too. So to start graduating our cords away, so we're going to separate some out. What I want to do, the top ones here, so the top one on each side, I want to just separate that out for now. So just get them out of the way, because we're going to leave them here and then cut them off at the end. But we're going to separate them out so we kind of have less cords to work with gradually. And then we have all the rest down here. We're going to use them for a little bit more embellishment, and also we're just adding some more beads. So what I want to then do is take my next cords down after the ones we've separated out. So just get all the other ones out of the way here. That's these ones, the second one down on each side, and on them I want to add my next beads. So I have the very tiny ones, they're the 2mm rounds, the same as the ones in between the super duos, one on each side. And then we want to do our next few rows of knots. So again, I'm going to start on one side. The very next cord is after the one we just added a bead to. Is going to be the next cord we're going to work with and make a knot on with this. So I'm going to take my outer cord, the one with the bead, bring that underneath the next one in. Make sure the bead stays on the outside, you could say, so in that little corner, and it doesn't come in underneath with the cord. Then we just need to make a double half hitch around that holding cord, and again, as you tighten it, just make sure the bead stays in place, just like that. So there we have a little tiny row, you could say, going in this direction. And then we need to move on to the next cord, so bring it underneath the next one here and make a double half hitch. And there we go. And then the final one on this side, again bring the working cord underneath that one and then make your double half hitch again. And there we go. And you then want to go to the other side and do the same thing. So take the cord that's got the bead on there, bring it underneath the next one, make sure the bead stays in that corner on the outside, make a double half hitch, tighten that nicely, and then grab the very next cord, make sure to bring the working cord underneath it, and make a double half hitch again. So the exact same thing as we just did on the other side, but just mirrored. And again, working our way in towards the middle here, making a double half hitch until we reach the midpoint here, where that's then the cord that's coming from the other side. Now here we also just want to make a knot to bring the two sides together. So I'm just going to continue in the same way, bring that underneath the next one, and then just finish off here by making a double half hitch right in that little corner. And then I want to kind of finish off these rows in the same way that I kind of did up here with the diamond or the square. So I'm going to go back to one side. I'm just going to start on my left side, grab the very outer cord that goes over all of this in towards the middle, and then we want to make a double half hitch with each of these cords around that holding cord that we brought in over, and then this row of knots then goes in the opposite direction of the ones right above, and that just finishes them off nicely. Make your double half hitch with each of the cords coming underneath it, and the last one just like that. The same thing with the other side, grab the very outer one, bring that over towards the middle, and then make a row on this side going in the opposite direction than the rows right above here, the little short ones that we just did. To give that nice edge. Working in towards the middle. Again, now to reach the point where we're in the middle, and we just got to connect the two sides together. So just continue with the row that we're just working on now. And there we go. And then, because we're gradually taking out cords here as we're going, I want to take out the next ones now that are at the top. So just get them out of the way. Just going to use my pins here to make sure they don't get tangled up with what I'm working with. So again, the top ones, one on each side, and just get them out of the way. And then I'm going to grab the cords, the next one down after that, one on each side, and on this one I want to then add another small bead and let that drop all the way down. And the same thing with the one on the other side here. Get your little tiny bead, put it onto that cord, and it's basically we're going to be just repeating the same thing now a couple of times, but gradually, because we're taking one cord out here per section, you could say, we're just getting less cords to work with. And let that drop all the way down there. And then to start off the same again, we're going to take that cord where we just added a bead and bring it underneath the next one, start on whatever side you want to, and then make a little row here with just one double half hitch. Bring it underneath the next one. You can see we then have one less cord to work with than we did before, because we took that one out. And then the same on the other side. The cord with the bead on goes underneath the next one, making sure that that bead stays right on the outside corner. And then making your double half hitch. Bring it underneath your next cord. And make your next double half hitch. And then we're in the middle here. Again, just continue. So bring it underneath that one. So then also connect the two sides. So there we go. And then obviously we have to do the same thing again, just finishing off the ends of the rows nicely. So I'm going to go to the outside one again, bring that over in towards the middle, and then use the next one as my first working cord to give that nice edge again. Just like that. The same on the other side. Bring that over in towards the middle and finish off the edge nicely here as well. Always grabbing the very next cord that's coming underneath, and then the middle there to connect the two sides, just like that. And there we go, that's the next little section. And so we're in this position where we're almost at the end, but I just want to do one more section here. So that means I'm going to separate out one more cord. So just grab the very top one on each side, get them out of the way, and then I want to add another bead to the next one down, so we kind of stay that consistent design look to it. Let the bead drop all the way down. Same thing on the other side. Add your final bead here, and all the way, and then start out the same way to bring the cord that's got the bead on underneath the next one, making sure the bead stays out there in the corner. Make your double half hitch, and then we need to go straight on the other side because there's no more cords left here. So take the cord with the bead on underneath the next one, and make your double half hitch, just like that. And then we have the two cords here in the middle. So what I'm going to do is leave it the way it is. So I'm going to take my right one over my left one here and make one more double half hitch. That's going to kind of be the center of this little section. And then all I have to do really is finish off these rows in the same way as the other ones. So I'm going to go back to the outer one, bring that over in towards the middle, take the next one underneath, make your double half hitch, and this is then the one that goes in the opposite direction. Same thing on the other side, bring it over, make your double half hitch, just to give it that nice edge and kind of cage all the rows in. And then finally, the two cords from each side, one from each side there, cross it over again, to connect them right there in the middle. Let's give it a nice finish. And there you go. So that's all the knot work done. We have all the beads added in, and we then have all these cords left, obviously. So I'm just going to unpin this now. And you can see, because we've gradually got rid of more and more cords, that they're kind of spread out, so they're going to be nice and easy to get rid of as well. So what I'm going to do is singe them down, but you could also glue them and cut them off. That's completely up to you. It depends on what kind of cord you're using. So if you're using a natural cord, you're probably going to have to use glue. But if you're using a synthetic cord like I am here, you can singe it down with a lighter. So I'm just going to show you how I do that. So I'm just going to start down here because it's easy to show you. And what I'm going to do is take my scissors, and I want to cut down the excess length, obviously. But I'm going to still leave 1 to 2 millimeters from where they're coming out from the knots. So just go right there, leave just a little bit, and cut off the excess. And then I'm going to take my lighter here, and obviously be careful because it's a naked flame and it's hot. So just be gentle. And then I'm going to go in gently and singe down the very ends that are left. And then I just like to kind of push them in. You can either use the lighter like that, or you can also just use your finger a little bit. It makes it nice and rounded edge. Whatever you're comfortable with. And obviously as long as you're careful. And that's how you basically get rid of them. Because first of all, it makes it a nice and neat finish, but also it kind of seals the cord in place and the knots so they won't come undone. So just do that with all of them, and then you have your finished piece. Obviously you want to make 2 of these, then you want to use the jump ring at the top. You can then attach to whatever earring findings with some other jump rings. So here's then the finished pair of earrings, where you have your daisy beaded section there in the middle and the rest of the macrame. And it then matches the previous bracelet that I did. Just like that. You can see you have that same look and the pattern going, but just made slightly different because of the earrings, obviously. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial here, and thank you very much for watching.